Greetings, brethren. It's the Donkey, and we're once again back with Beer of the Gods. And this time, I cracked. So the first three that I did, I kind of did on theme because I thought it was interesting to pick sort of the locally important Germanic gods. But I didn't actually like two of those. I really did like the first one. Link is up here to that fake bracket. So now I just picked one where I really, really hope that it's just good. And that's Mjölnir, which is a Nordic lager. And since it's a lager, and it's made in Germany, I expect this to be at least a 6 out of 10. If it's not, I'm going to be very upset. Because there is no excuse at all for a German beer company to not put out a drinkable lager. Okay? Just giving a warning to the Wacken Brewery. I've not tried this. This better not be awful. Okay? Just saying. Because the Madsen wasn't great. And that was already kind of suspicious. So let's see what you got. If this tastes any like those horrible American craft lagers, I'm gonna be so upset. Oh. All right, but let's not let's not be too negative before we've tried it, right? Oh no. I think it is gonna be like those. So we have a 5.3% beer, and the smell is just so crafty, IPA. I still need a better description for that, but it's sort of, it's just such a hard to describe smell, but yeah. Ooh. I rescued it and already had a sip. And oh boy, I don't think I'm gonna be happy about this one. Good crown though, I like that. Still a bit in there. Again, these glasses are way too tiny. I'm gonna need better ones. But yeah, solid crown. Bonus marks for that. But now comes the important part, and as I said, smell-wise, and from just tasting the foam, oof, I'm having some horrible thoughts. Also, it's kind of cloudy, which is interesting. So, again, reminds me of a Zwickel, color-wise, and you know, because it's a bit cloudy. But let's just have a go. Okay, right. So I will say this. It isn't as obnoxious in its sort of craftiness as those American lagers, those American craft lagers that I've previously, or actually, no, not at this point. Never mind. We'll talk about those in the future. It goes in that direction though. It doesn't quite capture what I would call a Zwickel. It is a little bit more aggressive in its bitterness and in the sort of overall acidity as well. It's quite acidic for a lager, and I also expect that. Yeah, if you were to drink this quickly, you would get that petroleum buildup in the back of your throat where you think like, ooh, this is really alcoholic. And that is just a characteristic that comes with that sort of, with over-hopping your beer, which is kind of how I would describe an IPA. And I know it's meant to be that way, and it's fine, and if you like those kinds of beers, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you because there's so many for you to try. But I'm not the biggest fan of that, and when that creeps into a lager, it just makes me appreciate it less, because it doesn't, and that is absolutely, completely, I completely cop to that fact that this is a thing that, once again without stuttering, That is certainly something that I have in my palate and in my expectations of beer from being a German and from drinking lagers a lot for most of my life, right? Because that is kind of the standard beer here. Now, I do want to make this clear to Americans that what you call lager is not really what lagers are. I'm sorry to say, but most of those are either really commercial, awful piss water with sugar and other crap in them, or they are those more crafty beers, and they tend to be incredibly aggressive in their flavors. They because, and this is actually something I saw in a, or was that somebody talked about in a Townsend video, which I think I might link if I remember it, where they were talking about 18th century beer brewing. And he was also talking about how sort of the taste of the beer enthusiasts developed. And with commercial American beer being so awful and so close to water for forever, really, the craft beer movement has really embraced really extreme flavors. You know, strong IPAs and strong sour beers, and just everything with really extreme flavors because that's just something that you're not used to, and it's just something new and interesting. Whereas our beer culture over here is a lot more traditional and rounded, and those kinds of beers that, you know, because of the purity law, those kinds of beers aren't even allowed to call themselves German beers, right? So if they put sugar and stuff in there, they're just not allowed. And there are a lot of people in Germany, and this is probably something I should have talked about in German Beer Week. There's a lot of people who will actually not buy beers if they're not brewed by purity law. They just say, nope, that's not a real beer, not going to drink it. That exists. I'm not as judgmental. I will try stuff that isn't brewed by purity law, but there are those people. And because of that culture, the really extreme flavors just aren't all that appreciated anymore. And a lot of those extreme flavor beers, such as really sour beers like Berliner Weisse, they've kind of fallen out of favor, and they've kind of become sort of. That's why in the beginning I was complaining about craft beer in terms of hipsters, because that kind of is what it has become here. We have so many tasty beers, literally hundreds and thousands of different brands of delicious beers. There's no need for these extreme beers that are just like, oh, you know, and you pontificate over it. But I do understand why that stuff became popular in America. Now, all of that coming back to this, where I'm just kind of sad that, I mean, this I can already tell, but that this is going to be the only one that's even close to normal in this whole line. From a German perspective, and it just makes me sad that they also went in that direction and just went overly crafty and really heavy on the flavor, to the point where it's just kind of overbearing and not all that pleasant anymore. Again, I don't mind a Zwickel, and it does have some of those characteristics of a Zwickel. It's a bit more fresh. It's not overly savory, but it doesn't. The good thing about a Zwickel, and I talked about this in my review of the Flötzinger Zwickel, is that a Zwickel is usually very rounded, and it's super inoffensive. And if there's anything about a beer that someone doesn't like really bitterness or sourness or extreme savoriness or alcoholic flavor, then a Zwickel is great because it doesn't really do any of those to an extreme. It's just a very nice sort of all-round beer. But this goes really heavily in that bitter region, and not in the way a Pilsner does, but really more in the way that IPAs do, and beers of that ilk. So it's very lingering. It's almost like tonic water, where it takes over everything. And there are other flavors going on, but the bitterness is so overwhelming that it just kind of drowns a lot of the other stuff out. And I just don't find that very pleasant. I find that kind of annoying, and it just makes me not want to keep drinking this beer. It's not undrinkable, I will say that. Yeah, but for me, because of that overwhelming bitterness, that just really, it's all, especially the more you drink of it, that's all you taste. That's all the beer is. On the first go, there was some more notes. There's an interesting hop flavor as well, but just the bitterness has become so overbearing, and I only taste that now, and it's just kind of sad, and I really don't like that. And again, that is something that I really associate more with IPAs and, you know, those sort of pale ale type beers, that whole spectrum. And I don't really want that from a lager. So for me, yeah, this is not for me. And I'm only because I would not get this again. It's sadly the only one out of this line that I have tried that I would get again so far has been the fake braggot, which is actually quite nice, and I have had it again since then. I wouldn't get this one again, and so I'm only going to give this a 4.5 out of 10. Again, it does have some interesting Zwickel characteristics, but it just goes way too heavily in those sort of directions of IPAs and craftiness, and wants to be something that it's not, and I don't appreciate that, so it's not going to get a great rating. It is still drinkable, but if there was just a, even if this was just like a gimmick on a restaurant's menu, and they still just had the regular sort of restaurant beers in Germany, I would get those over this any day, because they're just more pleasant. They're just nicer, and this is just gonna linger with you so much. I don't want that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a wonderful evening, and please come back on another day for another beer. Take care.